Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you step by step how to make this super simple wreath that you can use on greeting cards or just to doodle in your sketchbook. First we're going to go through our materials. I'm going to be using Rembrandt watercolors, but you can use any watercolors you have. I'm going to be using a piece of watercolor paper. This is B 100% cotton watercolor paper. I cut it in half. These are usually twice the size, so I just cut one piece in half. Again, use any watercolor paper you have. I'm going to be using just a regular number 2 pencil. I like the Mirado Black Warrior. Actually have a video on this, so I'm going to link it above. And I'm going to be using just some cheap brushes, some Taklon brushes. And that's it. And then to practice, first we're gonna use some just regular sketch paper. So before we go on to making our card, we're gonna practice the couple of elements that are gonna go into our wreath. So before we go on the watercolor paper, I'm gonna use this sketch paper. It's just really thin paper. You can use printer paper or any kind of paper you have just to practice before going on the watercolor paper. I'm just gonna use my pencil. And I'm going to draw, just trace around this roll of masking tape, a circle. And that's going to be the guide for my wreath. Now you can use anything you have that's round to trace the circle. You can use a can of beans or a different type of roll of tape. Anything that is the right size for your size paper that you're using. Now the two elements that we're going to include in this wreath are some leaves and berries. So the leaves are going to be really simple. We're going to do a little S shape, like an elongated S shape, and we're going to close it out with a little C, I guess, and just make a little leaf. Super simple. We're going to do that again, a little S, and then we close it out. And those are going to be the leaves that are going to go in our wreath. The second element is going to be super simple. It's just going to be some berries. So we're just going to do little clusters of berries. 3 berries. You can add a stem. That's about it. Super simple. Just those 2 elements are going to make up our wreath. So we're going to stagger the leaves across the circle. So the little S, and then we close it out. Then the little S, and we close it out. So we just go around the circle like that. And just keep doing that until you have the full wreath. All right, so I went all around the wreath and I staggered the leaves. Now they don't have to be perfect. This is gonna be, it's organic, right? So any imperfections just make it look a bit more unique and actually makes them look more interesting and better, I think. So that's it. You have your base of your wreath. Then we're just gonna add some little berries around the wreath. We're gonna stagger them here and there, and you can put a little bit of a stem in there, and that's it. That's gonna be the basis of our wreath. So now we're gonna move on to our watercolor paper, and we're gonna do that exact same thing. And there we have it. We have our full wreath. And you can see that when you make that S for the leaf, it gives it movement. So it makes the wreath more interesting versus just making a straight line to create the leaf. So it kind of just makes it feel a bit more alive. All right, so now that we have the base of our wreath done, we're gonna look at our colors. We're just gonna use 3 colors for this. We're gonna use a phthalo blue, a burnt sienna, and a cadmium red. And we're gonna mix these to create this kind of like really muted green and a muted red. So to make this green, I mixed the phthalo blue with the burnt sienna, and to make this muted red, I mixed the burnt sienna with the cadmium red. I already have a bit of the mix here. I'm just gonna re-wet. And I'm just gonna go by every leaf, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of green on every leaf. Now feel free to paint outside the lines. This is gonna be, it's meant to be very loose, very organic, very relaxing. It actually makes it look more painterly, I think, if you don't paint necessarily inside the lines. So don't be afraid, just put some paint there in each of one of those leaves and make that wreath come alive. So I really like how that came out. And as you can tell, as that paint is drying, you can see the pencil lines beneath, which I think looks really nice. And that muted color just makes it look more sophisticated than just like using a bright green. So now we're gonna put some berries around here. You can draw them in, or you can just literally paint them in with the paint straight. I'm gonna just draw them in, and you could draw these before you actually drew the leaves, so you don't have to. Actually, it would be recommended to draw these before. I think I forgot to do that before, but it's not a problem because it's a type of project that you're not using up a lot of paint, and it dries quite quickly. So I'm just gonna put some berries around the wreath in different spots, some inside, some outside the wreath, and I'm just making a little stem. Good, I like how that looks. So I'm gonna grab my paint. I have a mix here of cadmium red and burnt sienna with that muted red. You can just fill them in like so, or you could actually leave a little bit of a white space, so you can draw a circle and leave a little bit of a white space on the berries to make them have some contrast and look as if they have a highlight of some sort. Now we painted all the berries and it's dry, and I really like how this is looking. It's just something around the simplicity of the materials and the lines that just makes it really charming. Now you can write any kind of sentiment on this. You could write it in the bottom. So you could write Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you want. Or you can write it in the middle. So you can write joy or any, like, you know, Happy New Year, anything you want, either in the middle or the bottom. I think I'm gonna write something in the middle. And I'm gonna write it with pencil just because I've been using pencil and I like the exposed pencil lines. So I want to write it in pencil. And this is something that I feel like a lot of people can relate to, given that this year has been such a crazy year. You can make faux calligraphy with pencil. Faux calligraphy just stands for fake calligraphy. You can Google this to really understand what it means, but we're basically just making the downstrokes of all of our letters darker than the upstrokes, and that's it. And here we go. This is the final version of our wreath. I really like how it came out. Off camera, I tried a few different versions of this. The version I liked the most was this horizontal version, where I used lighter pencil lines. I made bigger leaves and a lighter green wash for the leaves. I think it looks a lot more delicate and it fills the page better. So you can experiment with different leaf sizes, different materials, even different colors. If you're afraid of the pencil marks smudging, you can spray it with art fixative, or you can make this with a fine liner or a Sharpie pen to avoid any smudging lines. And that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it and you got some ideas. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Happy holidays, everyone, and see you in my next video. Bye-bye.